will be on Zoom. And starting in September, right now, it looks like we are slated to go in person as of September. So we'll all be able to say hello to each other face to face instead of Zoom to Zoom. And that, for me, will be a very nice evening, just to see all of you. Michael,
Yes.
District Manager's report.
How you doing? I don't know if I'm on the camera or not. I can't really see.
Yes, you are.
Okay,
Yes, you-
so I'm going to take my best shot and look at it. I just have 3 brief items as the district manager report, and I'll place them in the chat. First, for people that are interested, the Gowanus CSO meeting is tomorrow, the public engagement meeting from New York City DEP. 6:30, it's on, I don't know if it's Zoom or WebEx, but I'll put it in the chat. Secondly, I know a lot of people have been very concerned about the last mile warehouse issue in Red Hook. We've been discussing, our office has been talking with Councilmember Avilas's office about pushing towards a public forum and various ways that we can, engage on a policy level. That'll be also in the chat. I'm going to put all and if you want to see all the stuff that we've done on it and positions that we've had. And the third thing was that the executive order expires, as Jerry mentioned, for in-person meetings, for fully remote meetings, I should say, for public bodies such as ourselves. And so June 8th would, as of now, is slated to be our last one. But again, last September we were supposed to, and then it's tough to find places, and hopefully we can get back to in person. I'm going to share that, and if you want to hear from me more, if you're not one of the board members, feel free to sign up for my email list that I send out every day. And then if you're from the community, I can also include stuff that people are interested in. And I hope I was making eye contact with the camera because I cannot see myself. That's it.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, we have 4 items, as I said, and they're all landmarks issues. David?
I'm ready.
Okay, David, the floor is yours. Why don't you start with the first one, and we'll go from there. Just let me remind you that earlier this evening, Michael sent out an email with some letters that we received and from some of the neighbors concerning one of the issues. So, Mark, you have your hand up before? No.
No, I didn't have my hand up before. I have my hand up now because I'm going to move to table the one on Baltic Street because, as you mentioned, Mike just sent out materials for additional consideration that weren't before the committee. And the proper procedure is to review stuff before the committee before it gets to the full board. So I think it should be sent, the Baltic one should be sent back to the committee for further review, but since both sides request that we look at further materials, and I will make a motion to table at the proper time.
Okay. So you're not making a motion at the moment?
If it's appropriate to make that motion now, then consider it made. But if it has to be made as we're considering the issue, then I will defer. As the chair, I will defer to your wisdom.
I think we will listen to the presentation made that David's going to make. And if you still want to make that motion, please do.
Thank you.
Just let me remind everybody, a motion to table is not debatable. If there's a second, we would vote on it without any debate. David?
Okay, I mean, in terms of the new materials, it was information that was, I thought was repeated from the evening, April 28th meeting, but anyway, I'll take it from there. We're going to start with 171 Baltic Street, which is a certificate of appropriateness application to install a new rooftop bulkhead and solar canopy. Okay, so yeah, you saw the elevation. The work that we're reviewing is shown in the section at the top of the page. You can see a sight line. There's a new stair bulkhead with a structure up there that's supporting solar panels. Next page, please. Some street elevations showing, you can see in the third row of townhouses, the one with the red dashed square around it, or rectangle, is a subject property. Please note that the facade is actually not historic. It seems like it was covered at some point in the past. And then you can see on the site plan down below where it's located on Baltic, right across the street from PS 29, near Henry Street. Next page. So here they presented to us how they did their study for where the solar panels will be located. The final solution is the one in the lower right, option C. I do believe that it says, even though it says 12 solar panels here, that the letter from the owner today increased that number, but don't hold me to it. But it is the same footprint.
They did say 13 rather than 12, David.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. So the green area is recreational area, and the orange is the bulkhead, and then the white rectangles are the solar panels which sit on top of a structure or canopy or trellis, if you will. Next page. Existing front and back elevations. Next page. Proposed front and back elevations with the bulkhead up on the roof and the railing and the canopy, and some material selection to the top there. Next page. Some more details, elevations of the structure on the roof, floor plan of the roof, as well as a upper level plan showing the canopy structure and the top of the roof bulkhead. Next page. So here are some site photos from around the building, looking away from the building, just to give you some sense of context. I'm sorry, they're looking towards the building. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong arrows. Of the existing conditions. Next page. And here you have some photos showing where the mock-up is visible from across the far side of the PS 29 schoolyard. The one on the right there, the Ty is circling, is where the photo was taken. Photo 3A is actually a zoomed in photo. Down on photo 2A in the lower left corner, you can see the structure from Henry Street. And then if you move further down, Henry, again, I think that's a zoomed in, yeah, large view. Yeah, so that's the actual view in front of PS 29 towards the structure in number 2. Number 1A is a zoomed in photo of the bulkhead, or I'm sorry, the mock-up, and then over on 1 is the actual photo showing it there, and that's taken from Henry as you go towards Atlantic. All right, next page, please. So that what they did is they showed the mock-up with the orange netting on it that we always requested, and here's taking those photos and just using a little Photoshop coloring in with the materials they proposed, what the structure would actually look like in a representative way. So you can see that left to right there. All of these, I should point out, are enlarged photos. Next page. Photos of the mock-up, just from different angles. Next photo. Our next sheet, I mean. So these were just these photos show some examples of other bulkheads in the neighborhood. They're in the immediate vicinity. You can see on the map on the left where these photos were taken. Different shapes and sizes and colors and configuration. Next sheet, please. Or is that it?
That's it.
Okay. So there was a lot of community feedback on this one. Some of the neighbors don't like the project. I think unfortunately someone said it was like a shanty, beginning of a shanty town on the roof, which I didn't like hearing from a neighbor. There were some concerns about the height of the canopy. Someone said it was 15 feet high, and in one of the materials they sent today, they claim to show that with a rendering of an individual. I will say, as an architect, I can tell that rendering is not accurate based on the other elements in the photo. But But they just raised a concern that this is the beginning of more rooftop additions. They felt that the solar panels could go on the roof, and this was just a way to sort of couch the presentation of the project as a way to get more recreational space with sort of dressing, solar panel as window dressing to make it look more desirable. I won't go into all the back and forth, but there were a lot of questions and debate about this, but the motion was approved. Well, I should say the motion was to approve as presented. It was seconded, and there was 8 in favor and 5 against.
Thank you, David. Mark, before you make your motion, David, did the applicant tell us when they are having their public hearing at LPC? Did they mention it?
I don't think we asked them that question that night. I know we asked someone else that question, but I don't think we asked them. I don't know if they're here and they could answer that. But
My concern is if we table this, our next land use meeting is not scheduled until June 23rd. So I'm a bit concerned that if we table it and wait for the next meeting and the next board meeting, we might lose our input, but let's see where we go.
So
Mark?
it's gonna be it's gonna be May 17th.
They're calendared for May 17th?
The building owner is indicating that in the chat, and that's what I remember from our meeting.
Okay. So if we table, Mark, please realize if we table this, we will have no input from LPC. And I would prefer in that case that you do not make your motion, but it's entirely up to you. Thank you, Glenn.
Are you ready for me?
Hmm?
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess it's up to me to call. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
Go, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I said, it's up to you, Mark.
Well, I have to let you know one way or the other, don't I? The applicant has indicated that changing the number of solar panels from 12 to 13, that is in fact de minimis. I recognize that. And I did in fact vote for the motion when it came up. But adding materials post-committee meeting is inappropriate, and it should be sent back to committee to be considered by the committee. And if that creates an additional issue, Ty had told us that he can communicate with LPC to let them know what the issue is at the community board, and they can take that into consideration. But yes, I make the motion to table because new materials are in front of us from both the applicant and the opponent's post-committee hearing, which I think is most inappropriate. And I ask that it be sent back to the committee for further review, and therefore I ask that it be tabled.
So can I respond to that for a second? I understand the point, Mark, but it seems like anybody who's against a project, I mean, and maybe I'm missing something here, but anybody who is against a project can send a letter a day or two before our board meeting. And if following your logic, we would have to table that particular project because new information has been made available. Everybody was notified of this in due course, and no one complained that they weren't notified. So I'm not sure what I'm missing here.
Is there, first of all, motion to table usually does not involve any discussion. Do we have a second? But I see we want to discuss it anyway. Is there a second to Mark's motion?
Well, I have a point of order.
Yes, David. Daniel,
I think what Mark is really making is more of a motion to recommit to the committee rather than to table this over to another meeting of the full board. But that's the
motion. to
amateur
table-
parliamentarian in the.
Right. A motion to table or a motion to recommit would have the same effects as their LPC.
They're both
hearing.
procedural motions.
Right. But it would have the same effect since their hearing at LPC is the 17th. Ty, are you on?
I am.
What is the possibility of getting their public hearing at LPC postponed.
Hard to say with less than a week. I imagine they typically do listen to us when we request a rescheduling, but they have published their agenda for next week.
Okay, thank you. Okay, technically, Daniel is correct. This is a motion to recommit to committee. Is there a second to recommit? If you are seconding, please say so. Hearing no second, the motion
Aye.
failed.
I would second that.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. All right, everybody, this is a motion, it's a procedural motion, there's no discussion. All those in favor of the motion to recommit and asking the Assistant District Manager to contact LPC and postpone the hearing, please signify by raising your hand. David, are you raising your hand to vote yes? Okay, thank you. Ty,
Jerry, I see 8 hands up.
that's what I
Not
got.
counting the
Okay.
council member.
Right, not counting the council member. Okay, board members, please put your hand down.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Board members, please put your hands down so I can do a count on the nose. All those not in favor to recommit, please. Pardon me. Please raise your hands.
I believe the noes have it, Jerry.
Yes, they do. Motion fails. We'll continue to discuss 171 Baltic Street and its application. Okay. Let me take my hand down. David? You have to unmute yourself, David. Okay. You're not coming, you're still muted. Let me go to someone else. Oh. Eladia, your hand is up. Do you want to have something to discuss on this issue? Oh. Councilman, as soon as this issue is over, I'll be calling on you, as soon as we vote.
Jerry,
Thank you, Jerry.
I did, go ahead, David.
you can hear me now. Okay,
Yes.
good. Somehow my speaker stopped working. So I have nothing to say. Sorry.
Okay. Alec,
Well, there's no discussion on, we have seen no discussion other than this procedural discussion. So I thought I would say something, which is, I made the motion to approve the application as presented in the committee. I generally think it is a worthwhile thing to encourage solar energy projects, even in landmark neighborhoods, and that they are not a detriment to the neighborhood. I understand that this project is not only a solar project, it's also a recreational project. I understand that weighs heavily on some people on the board. And I respect that. My own view of the nature of this project, its effect on the look and feel of this street, it does not seem to be, to me, to be a serious intrusion. That's my own view. And were this not a solar project, maybe I would come down a different way. But with that thumb on the scale, I think it is important that we support solar development in the neighborhood. I'll note, we're talking about historical integrity. We allow a lot of things on the look and feel of the street that are bad for climate change, and we don't care about whether they are historically accurate. For example, we allow a lot of on-street parking of cars. You never would have been allowed to park a car on any public street when these historic buildings were built, and yet we allow that aesthetic intrusion. We also allow window units, air conditioning, window units to dot the facades. And I don't think that's good for the aesthetic integrity, but we think that that is a compromise in the direction of quality of life. We accept it. All those things are bad for the environment. Solar panels aren't. So I think this compromise in the direction of doing something about climate change is a fine one. So that's why I made the motion, and thank you.
Thank you, Alec. Glenn?
I am also supportive of solar panels, but this isn't about solar panels because the applicant presented 3 versions of their rooftop plan. One of them involves all of the solar panels flat on the roof, no recreational space. And the one that they preferred, which is all of the panels up on the rooftop bulkhead and this additional canopy, which provides them the maximum amount of recreational space. The middle proposal was a compromise, which I think is the best way forward because it provides the exact same amount of solar panels. All 3 proposals have the exact same amount of solar panels. So it's not about the solar panels. It's about maintaining the historical integrity of the Cobble Hill Historic District. And that has been maintained for, what are we talking about, 50 years now. And if we start chipping away at it, it's going to be gone. And it's important to me, and it should be important to others, because very little of the city is landmarked. And we love these historic row houses. And yes, there are cars in front of it, and there's not much we can do about that. But I think we can draw the line. Doesn't affect the solar panels. They can still get some recreational space on the roof. I'm sympathetic to their desire for that. But if you take a look at the middle proposal, it is on the LPC 003 page, and they would get maybe 2/3 of the recreational space and the same solar energy. So that's my suggestion. I live in a landmark district for 35 years, and I take on the responsibility to meet the obligations. Maybe it cost me a little bit more, but it's important to me. So I encourage you to support my ask that they agree to the compromise that they indeed looked at. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. David?
So Glenn's right. This isn't about the solar panels. I don't agree to the compromise. This family doesn't have access to outdoor space on their property. The neighbors said, well, they've access to PS 29's outdoor space. That's fair. They're investing in bettering their property with a proposal that's pretty discreet in terms of, if we go back and look at those photos where the view across PS 5029's playground is against a larger building where we've met, the nursing home, I think. I'm not one of those believers in historic districts being frozen in time. People have a right to develop their property and expand it within the code and zoning constraints. And I think this is a nice proposal. It's a nice design. It's in muted colors. Even the letter we received today, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but even the mesh seemed to be a little brighter in the images, just to reinforce what an eyesore this would be. This is not going to be an eyesore. No one's going to really even see it when you're walking up and down Baltic Street. I give kudos to the owners for putting the solar panels up there. I mean, whether they do that or not is sort of irrelevant to us, but it's about getting up to a roof with your young child and having some outdoor space. There is nothing wrong with that in an historic district. And the way a community grows is by adapting itself to the new lifestyle requirements, particularly in a pandemic where getting outside was risky for a while. And I think this is a fair and reasonable proposal. And we've approved so many rooftop extensions, which were much larger than this, that if we're going to just say no to this, then we ought to just stop even reviewing rooftop extensions and just say no, which I would not agree with. And frankly, if we did agree to that, I would step down as a chair because that's not the committee I wanted to join. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Suzanne? Suzanne, you're muted. Oh. Suzanne, I can't hear you. You're muted. Suzanne?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
When we put solar panels on our roof, it had to be 15 feet up. Because in case there's a fire, the firemen need to be able to cross over on the roof. They can't be flat on the roof. So just wanted to put that, my 2 cents in on that.
Thank you, Suzanne. Rick?
Sure. And I am curious about that because I had heard that Suzanne too, but the submission says that the other is an option. But anyway, my question or issue is that our job as a community board is to listen to the community, and that there was very vociferous opposition from neighbors, and I believe reference to a petition with 100 signatures. And so that does concern me when the desires of an individual, create such opposition among a broader community with, a broader number of neighbors within our community who've articulated their concerns.
Thank you, Rick. David, let me get someone who hasn't spoken yet. Evan?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo the sentiments of Alec. I think that, as a community board, we should be encouraging solar where possible, and having, a slight bump. Like, as someone who went to PS29, I'm telling you, I would not have minded looking at, a slight bump on top of someone's houses is not particularly something that gets in the way. And as someone who's lucky enough to have a roof access, I think that having roof, being able to go upstairs on top of roof makes such a big difference for the house. And so I don't see a reason why that we should need to restrict solar. I think this is in line with community values, and we should be promoting solar where possible.
Thank you, Evan. Rick, when you get a chance, take your hand down, please. Daniel?
Yeah, I wanted to I voted against this in the committee for the reasons that Rick Lofglass just cited. It's actually fairly unusual for us as a committee to get this kind of opposition from community members in the immediate vicinity of a proposed landmark application, and I was moved by the strong views of the neighbors, and since there was an option for this family to put solar on their roof without without raising the issues that have generated the opposition, namely by putting it flat, I thought it was a situation where they really should choose between one or the other, and that's why I voted against it.
Thank you, Daniel. David, and then I think since I see no more hands, we'll go to a vote. David?
Yeah, just thank you. Just a couple clarifications on the code. You can put panels on a roof. You're allowed to do that, Suzanne. You just have to allow a 6-foot walkway around them for the fire department. One of the neighbors claimed that the structure was 15 feet high. 15 feet is the maximum height of any roof structure that is exempt from the maximum building height. But that is not the height that they are proposing. They are proposing 11 feet. It's right on their drawings. I double checked today just to make sure. So you can have, the solar panels up here, you can have them down there. It's the passage either under them or around them, which then diminishes. If you go up like this, you can walk under them so you can have more solar panels. And they could have presented a lot more, but they didn't. If they put them down, they could have more if they want. But again, I don't think this is a solar panel issue. This is a structure on the roof issue that happens to have solar panels on the top of it. So I just wanted to clarify those code things.
Thank you, David. Ariel, and we're going to go to a vote.
I just want to also say that although the people say that if they just put the panels on the roof, that we wouldn't see anything, but either way, no matter what, there's going to be a new bulkhead there. And the bulkhead is the piece you're going to see. The additional solar panel is just is a canopy of some kind. It's a very light structure. It's not that big orange structure. So to me, the bulkhead's there no matter what. So then you might as well have the panel and have a better situation on the roof.
Thank you, Ariel. Okay, Ariel, if you could put your hand down. Okay, the motion is to approve the addition of the bulkhead with the solar panels at 171 Baltic Street. The motion passed the committee. It's now up for a vote. Please remember, if you're voting yes, you support the motion.
Can anybody else hear Jerry? He seems to have frozen.
No.
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 David, I would nominate you as having done the presentation, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, all right.
You hear me?
Is everybody?
Yeah, okay. All those do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hands on the screen.
I get 12.
Yes, that's what I get. Okay, everybody, put your hands down, please. All those opposed, please raise your hands. Ty, I get 6, is that correct?
I got 7, including you, Jerry.
Yeah, I have 7.
Yes, yes, I'm sorry, Miss Pauline. She's on my other screen. Okay, motion passes as presented. Our recommendation is to LPC to go ahead. Motion is 12 in favor, 7 opposed. Any abstentions?
Just a question, do we not have quorum anymore?
Yes. I can't force somebody to vote, Glenn.
Just asking.
Yes, we do have quorum still.
Okay,
Yeah, and a few people I think abstained. They may not have realized it, but 'cause I'm
Yes, I did.
texting people.
Okay,
Intentionally as well.
and who's, Natasha,
There's
right?
Keisha
Yes.
Smalls, yeah.
Mark, are you abstaining? Glenn, please put your hand down.
I passed my own motion for myself. Yeah, I'm abstaining.
Okay, 2 abstentions. All right. At this point, we have a council member online who would like to say a few words. Councilman Ressler, Lincoln. Floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jerry. It is great to be with the great team at CB6. I will admit to being childhood friends with the folks at 171 Baltic. So I have a dog in the fight, but that's what happens when you grow up in the neighborhood. I hope that it all works itself out. I am pleased to share just a couple updates. I'm really excited about a couple new people that we've appointed to CB6 with the borough president. So hopefully that will all be finalized in the near future. Another resident from public housing and a really great community activist from our little slice of where District 33 overlaps with CB6. So look forward to those appointments and hope that there'll be real assets on the board. Just a few key things I wanted to mention. One is just this week, I think yesterday, time is a bit of a blur, we released a District 33 Climate Action Plan, which we are really excited about. It has 5 key pillars: reducing our emissions from our housing, our buildings, our transportation, and our waste, expanding green spaces and green infrastructure, and realizing a more resilient waterfront. It includes 40-something specific initiatives, legislation that we're introducing, organizing campaigns we're undertaking, oversight that we're pursuing at City Hall. It's a real kind of action plan for how we can locally try and tackle the climate crisis. And obviously we need help from Washington. We need leadership internationally, but we can't wait. And so I really hope that folks take a look and plug in. They're great opportunities to volunteer, and we would love to have your partnership. Secondly, just wanted to highlight a new bill that we've introduced at the council last week around evidentiary misconduct. This was actually a bill that Brad Lander had sponsored previously that we've taken the mantle on and updated some. And basically, we all know that our own district attorney has a list of police officers. Thank you, Mike, for sharing that. But I was saying our own district attorney has a list of police officers that they're not comfortable putting on the stand because of lack of reliability. And we don't have a system of accountability within our kind of criminal justice system. And so that's what this bill tries to address. If there are allegations of evidentiary misconduct of either falsifying testimony or evidence or other misconduct, you can file a complaint with the Department of Investigation. They will pursue and investigate, and as appropriate, make referrals to the district attorney's office to ensure greater accountability when there is officer misconduct. And so we're excited about this bill. I think it fills an important gap, and hope you'll look into it. We had a great time at the Gowanus Grind. I guess that was a week ago. It was as fun as ever, and I know we got a couple great events tomorrow in Gowanus. Van Allen's having their Bond Street Bash and the Arts Gowanus Gala that we look forward to hopefully seeing many CB6 neighbors at both of those. And then I just wanted to highlight one thing that is, I think, 3 blocks outside of CB6. So I hope you don't. I hope it's allowed. But on Monday, I had the privilege of joining the ribbon cutting at ICL's Institute for Community Living's 129 unit supportive housing development at 50 Nevins, so Nevins and State. But it is exactly the kind of solution that we need to address our homelessness crisis. And I am deeply committed to supporting new supportive housing developments across all of District 33 and across the city of New York, so we can ensure that folks who are stuck in our shelter system actually have a stable place to go with on-site services attached as needed. So those are just a few quick updates on my end, but most importantly, if there is anything that me and my team can do to be helpful, we're a phone call away. Swing by at 410 Atlantic, email us at district33@council.nyc.gov, or give us a call at 718-875-5200. Truly, any issue, big and small, we're here to help. And really just want to thank each of the board members of CB6 for the hard work that you put in to making this one of the great community boards in New York City, and all of the community members who are with us tonight. So thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Chair Armour, for having me, and our distinguished district manager as well. It is good to be here. Happy to take questions if you'd like, or to just wave and smile if you prefer.
Alec, let's make it quick. We have a long agenda.
sorry about that, Councilmember, on the police transparency topic. Does your bill consider prohibiting the use of a do not call list by law enforcement? I know that other law enforcement agencies across the country have actually said it will not be permissible to have a list of officers you will not call for purposes of Brady and Giglio, because, well, if they're necessary to make your case, put them on and disclose what you're supposed to disclose and try to make your case fair, rather than carving out of people who should be in the investigative circle for purposes of a trial. You see what I'm driving at. I wonder if you.
100%. Our bill does not include that component, but I think it very much merits amendment or new legislation. So Alec, I will be following up with you to discuss further. I think it's a great idea. And I didn't realize that other municipalities or jurisdictions had taken such an approach, but we'd be very eager to do so here in New York, in Brooklyn.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for
Thank
having
you,
me. I know
Alec.
you got a lot to do.
Thank
So-
you, Alex. Thank you, Councilman. It's a pleasure as always to see you. And if you can, stay for the rest. If not, I'm gladly you were here, at least for the first
Wonderful.
one, that you had at least some tangential interest in.
It's a pleasure.
David, next one is 193, 195 Congress Street, also
Yeah.
within the Cobble Hill Historic District.
That's right. This is a new building. Okay, so this is opposite the apartment building that's across from the
Whew,
park. So there's an empty lot
I
there. You
already
can
had a
see,
procedural question on the first issue.
what's that?
Nothing.
Okay. You see the building there, and there's an empty lot on the left, and you can see it's just up on the map that it's just off of Clinton Street, between Clinton and Court. Next slide, please. It's a historic photo with some historic maps. Used to be a garage there. Next slide, please. Some surrounding context photos. There's the apartment building, Congress Gardens, and some other examples of loggias or bays that the architect wanted us to see, and some architectural reference to the church up the street. Next slide, please. Photos of the street heading up towards Court, and on both sides, sort of a funky block in terms of styles and sort of proportions of buildings. Next slide, please. I think he was just, again, showing this for context. This is right across from the park on the Veranda Place there towards Henry. Next slide, please. Some other historic photos. Next slide, please. Other examples of carriage houses in the neighborhood, historic. Next slide, please. And some examples of carriage houses that were more modern, not necessarily in our neighborhood, but that are, I think, were just inspirations for the design they proposed. Next slide, please. All right, so you see in the top plan there, the proposed plan, there's an existing townhouse, and then the carriage house is set back. I think it's about 20 feet, 22 feet. I think we'll see in a minute. And as you see, it butts the rear yard space of the houses facing Clinton Street. Next slide, please. Currently, there's just a sort of a garden and patio there behind those wood doors. On the left is a plan showing that. Next slide, please. Some sketches of the intervention, as they like to refer to it. Some other inspiration photos on the right. And the section diagram there just shows that it's a 2-level carriage house next to the 3-story building. Next slide, please. So here's the plan. on the left, the proposed site plan, that's looking down at the roof with a yard out back and then a paved driveway in the front. Next slide. There's the elevation on the left, the existing conditions on the right. So it's a brick over wood composition. Next slide. Side view of the existing condition. Next slide. And the proposed condition. You can see how it's set back and there's an opening into the driveway there. Next slide, please. There's a rear view on the left, proposed. And on the right is the existing. Next slide. A rendered elevation. Next slide. Side elevation. And I'll get back, I'll bring up those windows in a minute that face onto the neighbors' backyards. Thank you, Ty. Next slide. Right, and there's a building section. And as you can see, the top part sort of overhangs the lower part a little bit there on the right, what they're calling the loggia. Next slide, please. Building section of the existing house. I'm actually not sure why they showed that to us. Here's the section of the carriage house next to the existing section, so there's no garage under or basement under it. Next slide. More plans. Next slide. Rooftop plan on the left there. And an upper level plan on the right. The loggia is that open area that's behind the wall. Can you point to that, Ty, so everybody understands what I'm over on the right? Go down, down, down. Yeah, that's the loggia there between that brick wall. So that's outdoor space there. And then the actual exterior wall of the upper level is just up from where Ty was just pointing, is right up a little more. That's the exterior wall. So it's an outdoor sort of patio behind a brick wall and under a roof. Next slide, please.
That's the last slide.
Okay. All right, let me get my notes back here. So there were several comments from the committee on this. One, and somebody from the community members spoke up about the windows facing the rear yards of the properties on Clinton Street. There was some questions about the bulkhead materials. Sorry, I have to bring up my notes again here. And we got into the height of the structure and the floor area. So eventually, after the conversation, I don't think anybody from the neighborhood objected to the project. My apologies, I just need to find my notes. Okay. And I made some comments about the loggia and just alignments with the garage door opening below. So there was a recommended conditional approval from Jerry. The conditions being reduce the number of windows in the west elevation, which is what we're looking at. Add more detail at the loggia. So it just wasn't openings cut into brick, and to align the garage door opening with the two windows above. Alex seconded it, and then there was 3 friendly amendments. Bob asked that the loggia overhang be eliminated, so it was just a flush facade. Jerry accepted that. I asked that heavier frames at the loggia openings, which are somewhat reminiscent of the heavy brownstone decorative window surrounds we see in the neighborhood, be added. They could be nice, clean, modern lines. I just thought that would be appropriate. And that the garage door opening would actually align with the 2 loggia openings. Ty, maybe you can get the front elevation up. Yeah, so I just had some minor architectural issues with the garage door opening on the right wasn't quite aligning with the opening in the loggia above it. And that there were window mullions in the background, but at the back of the loggia, you see some vertical dark lines there. Yeah, that's it, Ty. And that they should also align with the openings. And Joanna made a point, Jerry accepted my friendly amendment, and then Joanna made a point about the building should look less top heavy, which Ariel supported. And that was also accepted. And the vote was 10 in favor, 2 against, and 1 abstention. So the motion passed.
Thank you, David. We do have one question from a board member. There are no solar panels on this plan. And that was the question. Discussion on the motion. Please raise your hand if you have any discussion. If not, I don't see any. In that case, I see no hands up. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of recommending a conditional approval to LPC for the building, for the new building at 193-195 Congress Street in the Cobble Hill District, please raise your hands. Ty, I get 6,
I have 17, Jerry.
17.
18, actually.
Well, Pauline,
I
yes.
got 17.
It was 18 for a second there, but now it's back to 17.
Oh, okay.
Okay, 17 in favor, please.
Oh, now it's 18 because Deb Scotto keeps going in and out.
Okay, 18.
All right.
Please lower your hand so we can do those opposed. All those opposed, please raise your hand. I see 2 hands up.
That's what I have.
Okay, please lower your hands. Thank you. And abstentions. Motion passed.
Yes, I do. Smalls.
Oh, Pauline, who's that?
Smalls, Kamisha, Kia.
Okay, you didn't raise your hand. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Next one.
Next one is 337 Clinton Street.
Yeah, also in the Cobble Hill Historic District, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, this is one of those projects where I'm not sure why Landmarks couldn't deal with it, but anyway, here we are. There's the building, there's the site, there's a couple aerial views. Go to the next slide, please. On the left is the existing fire escape configuration. On the right, you can see in the blue that the applicant would like to modify the fire escapes to create a little bit of outdoor area so that they can sit on. And is there anything else, Ty, or is this the 2 images?
That's pretty much it. There are a few more photos that are close up, but this is the
Okay.
whole presentation, basically.
Okay, so as was correctly pointed out by Deb, fire escapes are egress issues or egresses, and the question raised to Mike Romeo, who was presenting this along with the clients, is like, are you blocking any egress? And they said absolutely not. So, and I asked if they were filers of the building department, and they said they were, and that they would meet the building department and FDNY codes. So after some conversation about that, Daniel recommended a conditional approval on the condition that the egress must be compliant with DOB and FDNY requirements. Van seconded, 12 voted in favor, and one was against. Motion passed.
Discussion on the motion? Please raise your hands if you have any discussion. In that case, we'll be voting on the motion. Motion is from 337 Clinton Street. Recommend the conditional approval. And the condition is that the egress must be compliant with both DOB and FDNY requirements for fire escapes and secondary means of egress. All those, since nobody had any discussion, we'll do it a little different. I will assume, let's do all those who vote against the motion. Please raise your hand. Those who are voting against the motion. Okay, nobody's voting against it. All those abstaining, please raise your hand. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. David?
One more. 31 Strong Place.
Yep, also within the Cobble Hill District.
Repeat offender neighborhood.
Okay, so this is a rooftop extension and rear yard extension. This is the one that we had to table last month, or not, actually not review last month, and then they came back in March, and then they came back in April and tightened everything up. So you can see where it is on Strong Place there, that dark gray dot in the lower part of the red area in the plan. You can see on the tax map, or I should say the survey on the right, that their backyard skews a little bit, which was sort of the sticking point back in March. There's some photos down below of the historic photos and current photos of the existing street elevation and the photo of the rear yard. Next slide, please. This is just a map showing where rear yards or rear yard extensions already exist and where vertical extensions already exist. So the stars are the verticals and the circles are the rear yard horizontal extensions and the heights of the buildings. Next slide, please. Again, the current rear yard facade and the street facade. Next slide, please. They were just showing some neighboring extensions. They're in the middle there at 31. Next slide, please. This is the existing roof. Next slide. Another shot of the existing roof. Next slide. On the left is the existing plan with the extension on it now on the rooftop bulkhead marked in numbers 1 and 2. On the right, larger bulkhead and a slightly larger rear yard extension, also marked in numbers 1 and 2. Next slide, please. Here's a nice sort of bird's eye view of the existing condition on the left and the proposed condition on the right. And you can see this one does have solar panels on the rooftop extension. Next slide, please. Sight line from across the street showing the existing condition. Next slide, please. And there's the proposed condition where the chimneys are raised, are fabled 3 feet that will penetrate that sight line, so they will be visible to some extent. Next slide, please. Proposed roof plan on the top, existing roof plan on the bottom. Next slide, please. Elevations of the proposed rooftop bulkhead, top and bottom. Essentially an enclosed structure with a roof with solar panels on top. Next slide, please. The 2 other elevations, front and back. And you can see they dotted in that on both of them, the FDNY required path on the roof. Next slide, please. Another existing bulkhead plan. Next slide, please. The proposed bulkhead with stairs, a room, a sink, closet, and then the outdoor planning area and passive recreation space with guardrails and some mechanical equipment on the back side of the extension, rooftop extension. Next slide, please. The bulkhead mocked up. Next slide, please. Another view. These are all towards the back. And here are view 1 on the left. You can sort of see it through the trees there, barely, the red oval. And then on the right is a zoomed in view. I think they pointed to it somewhere, but it's kind of lost in the branches. Next slide, please. Another view, a little closer, and then you can see the close-up view where you can see a little bit of the mock-up there. Yeah, thank you, Ty. Next slide, please. And there is a better view of the chimney extension and the enclosure for it. Next slide, please. And there they rendered it in for us. Next slide. And this is from directly across the street. So again, you can see the chimneys there in the close-up view pretty easily. You can see them in the other view as well, but they're on the left. Next slide, please. And there it's rendered in. Next slide. And another view of the chimneys. Next slide. And then further down the street. Okay. And then even further away. And another one. Sorry, this is
Very thorough, this one.
It's a 30+ page. There's a view from, I think we had a little name dropping going here. I guess that's Ben Bax's residence there. So the
It's
guy,
on a view from Clinton Street.
yeah, but he mentioned Ben Bax.
Yes.
So that's the view from Clinton. I know Ben used to be on this committee. So next slide, please. And there's a rendered view. Next slide. And I'm happy to go back to any of these if anybody thinks I'm going through these too quickly. It was a long evening. Existing bulkhead, new bulkhead. I'm sorry, they're both the existing bulkhead on that one. So rendering again with just an assessment of the conditions on the back wall. They're going to remove the EIFS, which is a exterior insulating finish system, and they're going to replace it with brick, as you can see on the right. Next slide. That is a straight on elevation from the street, showing the bulkhead above on the right and the existing condition on the left. Next slide, please. And that's a rendering now from the street bird's eye view. The bird's taking a little trip around a strong place. Existing condition on the right. Next slide. Another rendering of, this is actually the rear yard extension sketched in, which they sort of had to scramble to do because of the lot line issues. But that's the existing on the left and the proposed on the right. Next slide. And then they hardlined it. Next slide. And there's not much I can add at this point. Next slide. Yeah, next slide. Next. Window detail. Oh,
That's it.
Oh, well, I thought we were going to get to 40 pages. Okay, so there were questions about access from the parlor floor to the rear yard and the solar panel installation. There is no access from the parlor floor to the rear yard. So they answered that, and they only go out at the garden level. There are solar panels. There was a motion to approve as presented. It was seconded, 10 voted in favor and 1 voted against, and the motion passed.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions, comments? Rick? You have to unmute yourself.
Sure. Just It's very clear that they complied with public notification requirements, including, listing of where exactly they put the notices. And so as long as we didn't see the kind of community, neighborhood concerns that we saw in the other one, then I'm okay with it. So I just wanted to sort of comment that that was well articulated.
Thank you.
So, but did you get any feedback from neighbors?
No.
Okay, good.
Daniel,
Yeah, I guess I was the only one who voted against this, and I'll just to explain my reason. I just think it's a massive addition on the top that's out of character with the landmark envelope of this building, and not only alters this house, but requires, because of its size, a significant alteration of the neighbor's house in the form of a much higher chimney that is now visible from the street where it wasn't previously. And I also found the rear yard extension similarly out of character with the neighborhood, with the other buildings on the block, and therefore voted against it.
thank you, Daniel. Any other comments? Hearing none, seeing no hands up, I will call the question. We'll do the same as we did at the last item that we voted on. All those voting against the motion, which means that we would not support this at LPC, please raise your hands.
I changed my mind. Thank you, Dan.
Ty,
I counted 5, Jerry.
that's what I have. All, please put your hands down, folks. All those abstaining, please raise your hand. Thank you. I count 1. Motion passes. And Ty, please add me to the yes column. I forgot to put my hand up.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that is our last item on the agenda. If I'm not mistaken, did I see? Yes, we have a member of the New York City Council. Council Member Aviles is on the line from, oops.
It's Christina from Councilmember Aviles'
Oh,
office. Sorry,
okay.
her picture is part of the account. Apologies for that.
Okay, thank you. Let me run through, make sure I have everybody. I have Fazia from Councilmember Hanif's office. Would you like to say something? And Dan Wiley.
Faiza had to leave, Jerry.
Okay. All right. Christina. You're next.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Christina Bottego, Councilmember Aviles' Legislative and Budget Director. Hopefully you all know my face by now. And after this, I'll drop in my contact information for those of you who don't have it. Just going to read through some stuff that's been going on in our office. Feel free to ask questions if there's time afterwards. I'll start with traffic safety. So as you all probably know, there's been 2 constituent deaths in our district due to traffic violence. The first one took place last Thursday when a private garbage truck struck Eric Salitsky at 39th Street and 9th Avenue. The garbage truck fled the scene. The driver was caught and issued a summons. Next day on Friday, a 55-year-old man was struck on 4th Avenue and 21st Street when a truck made an illegal left turn and hit a motorist. These deaths underscore why traffic safety is so important and why this community is concerned about increased truck traffic coming into our community streets. Also, why we support and call on the city to implement commercial waste zones, and why we call on DOT to really consider the use of physical traffic calming measures such as ballards. Painted mediums are great visually, but each preventable death is one too many. On last mile, our office has been working on addressing the issue of last mile since January. We presented at CB7 and have spoken about our efforts at a previous CB6 full board meeting. Essentially, we're looking to define what last mile facilities mean under the law and ask DCWP to create a license structure that factors in traffic effects at the time of permitting. Currently, there is no mechanism for the city to consider these effects, and zoning laws allow for the facilities to be constructed as of right. That, of course, is not an endorsement of the facilities. We share the concerns of the community, and we've been working very hard on this issue since day one. Our office has been asked to host a community town hall style event specific to Red Hook to discuss this issue at length. And just for your all awareness, we're happy to do this, but given the multiple avenues we're working on this issue, we just need a little bit of time to plan and talk to the various stakeholders and the board. And hopefully we'll have an announcement on that soon. You all will be made aware of that. And Mike has been in constant communication with our office, and we thank him and we thank the board as well as community members that have been advocating tirelessly on this issue. Just some events going on in the district. We have a Red Hook community cleanup coming up this Saturday, starting at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's at Dwight and Otsego Street. Our office recently joined the Red Hook Business Alliance on their cleanup and recognized the need to do more of these efforts. And we do need more services, so we'll be talking to the Department of Sanitation. And we would love to have you all at the event on Saturday to improve and beautify our community. And then the last community event I'll mention is starting this Friday. We're going to do what we're referring to as Free Book Fridays. So hopefully this goes on through the summer. Members of the community, especially children, stop by our office, come pick up a free book. This will be sort of an ongoing effort through community donation efforts. So also if you have books that you'd like to donate to this, please drop them off at our office. And when we do mobile office hours, if it's easier for you to drop off donations there, please do. That will be, I believe, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Fridays, starting this Friday. And we're going to ramp up around June in conjunction with Brooklyn Book Bodega. So just a small start and then a larger start, probably in about 2 to 3 weeks.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Hildegard, do you have a question for Christina? You have to unmute yourself.
Hi, yeah, I have a request. So I'm excited about the idea of finding language to describe last mile warehouses. In addition to our concern about traffic, we're also concerned about job density.
I'm sorry, say that again, about?
Job density.
Okay.
So how many jobs per square foot of commercial space are brought into the community. So there's a lot of language around, last mile warehouses, bringing business, and all kinds of other great quote unquote amenities to the community. The reality is that job density is very low. For these structures, there are, typically maybe less than half a dozen jobs. And we find that unacceptable in a neighborhood that is transportation starved and job starved. And good job starved, even more.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's the first I'm hearing job density. We've certainly talked about labor from a number of other angles. We've talked about, needing green jobs and a green workforce. So another way we've been thinking about that is how to basically strengthen regulations in the industrial business zone in a way that would sort of disallow for last mile facilities while also allowing for green jobs. So that's another angle we're thinking about and pursuing. We've also, been thinking about labor standards. So, are these good jobs? Are they paying well? Are they providing healthcare, et cetera? That's another thing we've been thinking about. But honestly, the city has limited jurisdiction in that capacity. So we kind of have to find a creative way to incorporate that into the license structure, which is to say that the entity who has the permit must abide by state labor standards. We can't impose any additional labor standards. But,
Christina?
it is interesting to pursue from the industrial business zone angle potentially. So, I'll think about that and I'll follow up with you about that.
Yeah,
Thank
please,
you.
and please reach out to us. I'm Chair of Resilient Red Hook. We've been doing, as you know, we've been doing
Hildegard?
work on this, and we'd be happy to continue.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you both.
Mhm.
Assuming I haven't missed anybody, the next elected official rep is Stacy Johnson from Senator Kavanaugh's office. Stacy, are you
Hello.
still here?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you for having me again. Unfortunately, Senator Kavanaugh can't be here. Of course, he's super busy at the end of the legislative season. I'm excited for him to be able to join you after June 2nd so he can fill you in on all the details. I'll give you a little bit of an update. Essentially, there's been a fire prevention package that was passed in Albany this week, and a couple weeks ago, a climate protection package, or a whole bunch of environmental protections. So a few of the ones that are in the environmental package included a lot of new laws that will create charging stations in parking facilities, especially parking facilities that are on public land or that are subsidized with public funding. And some incentives for more solar panels. I know that was a big topic today on the rooftops, but for like solar panels in large developments or publicly subsidized spaces. Senator Kavanaugh had a bill that was passed that creates a carpet collection program. So the idea is to start recycling all the carpets and make sure that they don't go into the landfill. The fire prevention package included a lot of little kind of administrative laws to help clean up the code. Some of them included increased fines. And another example is like fire hydrant maintenance to make sure that the fire hydrants are checked and tested on a regular schedule. But those are pretty exciting packages that were passed. The environmental package is really going to help move the state forward towards its climate goals that they set out. And I put my email and my cell phone number in the chat. And so please just don't hesitate to reach out. And we have a whole bunch of COVID tests. I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but we have so many. Please don't hesitate if you just know of a place that you think would be good in the community to drop some off. So just reach out and I can deliver those. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me just say that this is in no particular order. I just wrote down the names of the representatives as I saw them. So next we have Dan Wiley from Congresswoman Velasquez's office. And after that, we have Donna from Assembly Member Simon's office.
Great,
Dan?
thanks. Thanks, Jerry. I do recall when you were chair of Community Board 6, so I think you're doing a great job of
Thank you.
reprising your role. So I wanted to, well, first, since folks are talking about last mile, we did get the letter from Community Board 7 on behalf of Community Board 6 and 5 and 7 to meet with the Congresswoman on the last mile issue. So I've actually emailed the folks suggesting some dates. Of course, I've been participating in all the meetings forever on Last Mile. And we're going to loop in our legislative director and to see if anything we can do on the federal side. It is, of course, more local, and I commend the efforts of the Assemblywoman Marcela Matenas and Councilwoman Alexa Aviles for being very proactive in finding ways of limiting the logistics centers that are bum rushing Red Hook as well as Sunset Park. But on a positive note, I want to mention, you recall that the Congresswoman got 10 community project funding projects through for this current fiscal year. The end of April was due submissions by members of Congress for community funding projects. We were allowed to select 15 projects to request. And I thought I would highlight a few of those. Since you had your discussion about solar, we have over $3 million request for Barrio Solar by Fifth Avenue Committee, which would benefit low and moderate income residents for broader adoption of solar, helping them with technical assistance to be able to install. And also, we're eating string beans right now, by the way. And also some of the Fifth Avenue affordable projects to put solar on top of those developments. We also have for NYCHA a $3.5 million request for NYCHA ADA accessibility and security lighting package. This would be for Red Hook East and West to augment the security lighting during the construction, because there are a lot of areas where MOCJ, along with the tenant associations, did a walkthrough and identified, I think, about 60 locations where there could be better lighting. But it also includes an elevator, a new elevator for the Red Hook Nikio Center, which breaks down half the time and is down for long periods because of obsolete parts. And also improvements for the Red Hook Senior Center front yard improvements. And also for Brinkman Plaza 2 in another part of the Congressman's district. Another project would be for the Immigrant Mental Health Initiative, which is with the Arab American Family Support Center, along with the Academy of Medical and Public Health Services, which would expand services in Spanish, Chinese, Bengali, Arabic, Urdu, Hindi, Punjabi, and Dari. So this would have great impact for a lot of immigrant communities. And another one, the image over my head, is actually something Congresswoman funded over a decade ago. And we have a new request for a youth education and stewardship initiative, over $1 million for Brooklyn Bridge Park Conservancy for its programming, as well as New York City H2O that has stewardship programs out in Ridgewood Reservoir. Believe it or not, the Congresswoman's district extends to the Ridgewood Reservoir, and the Greater Ridgewood Youth Council would also benefit, and St. Anne's Warehouse for cultural programming. Another one would be for St. Francis College's Nursing Simulation Lab to expand their programs in nursing through Brooklyn Hospital Center and high schools. So that's highlighting a number of projects. He has 15 projects, but those are some of the ones that kind of hit close to home for CB6. I also want to highlight that the beans are very good for you. I just want to get that out there. And last but not least, you know, the Owl's Head, I know Hildegard sent around a reminder that Owl's Head water, you know, the sewage overflow project is having a session tomorrow. But I also want to highlight that the Gowanus CAG is going to have DEP attend to address their compliance or non-compliance with EPA on Gowanus cleanup standards. But I also wanted to highlight that I understand that as a result of the rezoning, there's a points of agreement that the two council members had to include a cloudburst study for Red Hook and Gowanus. So I think that's key, that we make sure that that happens as well. So with that, my son and I bid you adieu. Good night.
Thank you, Dan, and thank the Congresswoman. Donna from Assemblymember Simon's office.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see everyone again. I just want to highlight just a handful of things, and I'll be quick. Tomorrow is Dyslexia Awareness Day. It's the 7th annual one. Joanne Simon hosts this every year, bringing awareness to the issue of learning disabilities and how to approach it, both in schools and in the incarcerated population. Tomorrow's virtual Awareness Day is available to everyone to join, and we have a lot of information about that in social media. I can put it in the chat if you'd like it as well. We are going to be joined for opening remarks by the mayor and Chancellor Banks from, so that will be a really interesting discussion. Feel free to come and join us there. I wanted to reiterate that we also have a lot of COVID test kits that we would love to have distributed throughout the community. We're happy to see many of you who stop by. So please continue to stop by and pick up COVID test kits. If you need multiple ones for an organization or a group that you're working with, we're also happy to accommodate that request. In terms of just a handful of other things, and once again, as you know, the Supreme Court appears to be poised to overturn Roe v. Wade, and the Assembly member is very much in favor of all of the steps that New York State is taking in order to codify abortion access protections here in the state. As you also know that or you may know that the Clark Street elevators have been replaced and are apparently working well. There's also something, there is construction now going on to replace elevators at the Court Street station, which just got underway. And we know that it's not necessarily an area that you all are affected by, but you may be. So we wanted to mention that as well. And then I think this is new news as of today. It looks like the congressional and Senate primaries are going to be happening in New York State on August 23rd, whereas the Assembly, judicial, and state races will still be in June. And this has to do with the district redistricting lines that were drawn and that were contested. So it looks like you'll be hearing more about that as more news comes forward. Obviously, it's the end of the session. There's a lot going on in Albany, and we appreciate very much hearing from all of you about the issues that are important to you. And hopefully there will be some legislation that's passing in the next several weeks that will be of great benefit to this community. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Donna. Before we go to community session, I just want to take this opportunity to thank David and Ty for their help this evening. I could not do the landmarks report, David. You did a great job. And Ty, as usual, you've been very helpful. Which brings me to community session. Ty, do we have people who have signed up?
We don't have anyone who's signed up, but we do have a couple more public entity folks here
I missed
first.
them.
That's okay.
Okay.
They're new. Jahi Rose is here from the Civilian Complaint Review Board. So Jahi, you should go first. You're on the panel already.
I'm sorry, sir. Did not see you on the
No
chat.
problem at all. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak this evening. I've been to your community board in person, but this is my first time virtually. I'm Jahi Rose, the Director of Outreach for the Civilian Complaint Review Board. I go by him, he, him pronouns. One, we wanted to notify you that the CCRB is back to doing our board meetings in person. They'll be taking place the second Wednesday of every month. Currently, they'll be held at our Manhattan office. That's at 100 Church Street on the 10th floor. They take place from 4 to roughly 5 o'clock, 5:30. So we did have a meeting earlier today. We did put out some information earlier. It should have gone over to the community board. If it didn't, I'll make sure that it gets emailed over to the community board regarding our protest cases. We're getting further along regarding the amount of those protest cases that have been concluded, where we've either come to a conclusion and made recommendations or not. So you will be seeing more about that in the next coming days. The CCRB would love to work with all of you to bring a message about police accountability. As you know, the agency takes complaints about force, abuse of authority, discourtesy, and offensive language. We can investigate those claims, mediate those claims, and if it comes to it, administratively prosecute those claims. But it doesn't help members of the public to use the process if they don't know about it and if they don't trust it. And we're here to ensure that members of the public are aware of it. We do presentations for educational institutions, nonprofit organizations, community boards like yours, and other formalized groups. We also do what's called CCRB Block by Block, where we will canvass a neighborhood with credible messengers and local organizations to spread the message, and hopefully partner to spread their message as well. But we want to make sure we get to meet people where they're at regarding understanding police accountability and understanding the Right to Know Act, which are rules that officers are required to follow when they engage with members of the public. We also have another initiative called CCRB Courtside and the CCRB Barbershop Tours, Barbershop and Salon Series. The Barbershop and Salon Series will just come to a local barbershop, nail salon, hair salon, and we will do a workshop there or a presentation there and have a very direct conversation with members of the public about police accountability. The courtside is when we come to a local recreational facility like a basketball court, handball court, football field, baseball diamond, and provide that information there as well, along with community members and credible messengers. So if you're interested at all in any type of outreach that we have to offer, don't hesitate. I'm going to leave my information in the chat. Reach out to me day or night. I don't have a life, so feel free, contact me on my cell phone or an email. We're here to help. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
And
Ty?
we have one more, Theodora Bogaczewski. I think you're still on the panel. You can unmute yourself. She's here to talk about some transit stuff.
Hi, how's it going? My name's Theo Bogaczewski. I'm with Perch Advisors. We're a community and economic development consulting firm that works in neighborhoods around New York City. I'm here to share some information and request feedback on a project proposal from a company called Dollar Ride. They are a Black-owned technology company whose mission is to deliver community-aligned, clean transportation solutions focused in neighborhoods underserved by public transit. So Dollar Ride was recently named as a finalist for a major grant opportunity from New York State. That's NYSERDA's Clean Neighborhood Challenge. If awarded, the grant funding would enable Dollar Ride to electrify dollar vans in parts of the outer boroughs that lack access to public transit. So right now they're focusing on routes along Flatbush Avenue and Utica Avenues. Dollar Ride's team is working to produce a final proposal, and they want to hear directly from community members in order to better understand how an electrified fleet of dollar vans can best serve these neighborhoods. So we're asking the community to help shape the outcome of this project by sharing some feedback. A little bit of context on dollar vans. If you live in Brooklyn, you're probably aware of dollar vans. They're driver-operated buses that carry riders along fixed routes, often in areas underserved by public transit. We understand the challenges of dollar vans. We've certainly been hearing that a lot from community members over the last couple of weeks. At the same time, it's an informal transit network. They're often under-regulated, but they do serve thousands of daily commuters and deliver accessible and affordable transportation service. So part of Dollar Ride's mission is to start to formalize and streamline this transportation service and also make it environmentally sustainable. So kind of that's the essence of what this NYSERDA proposal is after. So as part of the final stage of the proposal, we're inviting community members who live in neighborhoods along Flatbush Avenue, that's all the way up to the Manhattan Bridge, to dig in a little deeper with us on dollar vans and share some feedback that will inform the direction of the project. So we have a community survey that I'm going to circulate. I'll drop in the chat. It's whether or not you are a dollar van user. We want to hear about what you think the opportunities and challenges are of the transportation services and what you think about electrifying dollar vans. And then if you also want to dig in a little bit deeper, we're hosting 2 town halls next week. The first is virtual on Monday, the 16th in the morning, and the second is in person on the evening of Thursday, May 19th at Brooklyn Commons. thank you so much. And I'll drop the links in the chat.
Thank you very much. Before we go to community session, let me remind those who are going to speak during community session that you have 3 minutes, and I will give you a warning when you have 30 seconds left. Ty, you have the list.
Yeah, we have one hand up already, but I just want to say before I promote Charles, I think it's Giradell or Giradet. Sorry if I'm butchering that. If anyone else on the attendee side would like to speak, please use the raise hand function. I'll bring you over in the order that your hands are raised on my screen. Charles is first. Charles, you're being promoted to the panel now.
Ty, I see someone raising their hand. Joyce?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
So, it's a
Joyce, sorry about that. Joyce has been upgraded already. Joyce is from the Red Hook Library, I believe.
Okay, let's do Joyce first.
Yeah.
Joyce, are you there?
I am here. Thank you so much. I am from Red Hook Library. I'm the manager, and I just wanted to update the community board on some things that are going on. Right now, we're beginning summer reading. We're just about to kick off in a few weeks, and that's something which the community seems to love each year. We will be starting on June 4th, and that the theme this year is called You're Invited. And the reason why it's You're Invited is because we're celebrating Brooklyn Public Library's 125th anniversary. So the theme is kind of like a birthday celebration. There'll be more information to come as we get our events scheduled. Something that's very important to the Red Hook Library is that we will be starting a friends group. We're having a meeting next week to gauge interest, to give information to folks, because we've been approached. The previous friends group was disbanded many years ago, and community members have come and said they would like to start it again. So hopefully many people will join. It's next Thursday night at 6. And if it's okay, I'll send a flyer via email. And if folks could talk it up a little bit and perhaps distribute the flyer, I think if we can get a broader group of people, that would be very beneficial to the library. So thank you for letting me speak, and I will see you again next month.
Okay, just make sure that you also send it to our district manager so he can include it in his daily newsletter.
That's
Thank
to
you.
Mike, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, the next speaker is Charles. Charles, you have 3 minutes. So unmute yourself and begin.
Thank you very much. My name is Charles Giraudet. I live in Cobble Hill. I'm an architect. I also have 16 panels on my roof, solar panels. I am speaking for the community that opposes the project at 171 Baltic. I will not repeat the arguments that we have put in writing in the attached documents that were presented to the board. But I want to thank the board for its attention to this and the long debate. Of course, I'm very troubled by the vote, by the final vote. I want to thank Glenn Kelly for standing up for and exposing a rational way to balance solar and in this neighborhood without destroying the neighborhood little by little. I want to assert that the landmarks law was written to precisely limit these small encroachments that basically little by little eat at the integrity of the neighborhood. We are neighbors that are passionate about landmarks. We pay additional for every piece of work that we have to do on our houses, and this is where we come from, and we want to protect our neighborhood. That said, I want to specifically also say something to Mr. Briggs, who I thank for his clarification on solar, because a lot of myth has been circulated about this project that you need to have 9 foot, 15 foot, whatever it is on the panels. Panels do not need to be put in the air. Secondly, he has it wrong on a few things, and one of them really hurts because His whole argument was was based on that. We are 3 architects in this close team. The picture that you saw is not doctored. It was taken the day that workers came to remove part of the orange lining. There is a discrepancy, it seems, between the size of the mock-up and the size of the drawings. You can see there is also, you can see on the back pictures, you can do a basic visual evaluation if you don't want to use the character in there for the height of of this extension. If you have doubts about this, you can also look at the renderings and the pictures taken on roofs on 31 Strong Place and compare the size of the bulkhead with the one that is
Paul,
proposed.
you have 30 seconds.
171. Thank you. In conclusion, I want to say we have had 3 projects on Cobble Hill, 4 projects, I believe, on Cobble Hill. LPC is going to see 3 of them
Time's
on
up, sir.
517. The
Sir,
neighborhood
your
is
time
under
is up.
attack.
Sir,
And
your time is up. Thank you. Kathy? Please
Hi,
unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Kathy. Hi, I'm a Park Slope neighbor, and I'm here as a neighbor, but also as the Brooklyn organizer for transportation alternatives. I have a few community announcements and events that I want to share. One, my civic engagement initiative, Citizen Squirrel, repaired and painted the Little Free Library at Chips this weekend. I wanted to thank Mike for promoting that on the newsletter and getting families to show up to do that. We had a bit of a hiatus during COVID, but we're back with civic engagement projects for families with young children. In terms of like TA related events and initiatives, the Grand Army Plaza, we have a Grand Army Plaza petition, and you may have seen an article today that was about council members Hanif and Hudson's letter supporting of comprehensive traffic study at Grand Army. So I'll put a link to the petition and the article in the chat, but I wanted to give everyone an update about that, since of course, we all know that Grand Army is really dangerous, but there is a neighbor-led push to improve safety there, to build on the improvements that were made about 10 years ago. Also want to note that on June 4th, we are hosting a free family fun ride in Prospect Park with the council members who touch Prospect Park. So council members Hanif, Hudson, and Joseph will all be participating in the ride. It's free. I'll put the link in the chat to register. It'll be a great event. Also want to thank CB6, Mike, for co-sponsoring that along with other community partners. And one final thing you may notice in my background, Park Slope Play Street, it's a pedestrian plaza proposal for 4th Street at 5th Avenue. It's something that began before COVID to reclaim the Play Street that was taken over by
Kathy, you have 30
illegal
seconds.
placard abuse. And so hope people will look at the URL, bit.ly, / Park Slope Play Street. Will be at the street fair on Sunday, getting the word out about this proposal, this neighbor-led proposal.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. Time's up. David, David, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to respond to Mr. Giroday's comment. I'll be quick. At the meeting, he said the mock-up was 15 feet high. And he said there was a discrepancy between the mock-up and the drawings. The architect, when asked during the meeting to confirm the height of the extension, confirmed it was 11 feet. So the entire letter that was written from Mr. Giroday and his neighbors was presumed to be based on that 15-foot high mock-up, which if it was built wrong, fair enough, but the mock-up actually should have been 4 feet less, which makes the visibility of the extension that much less. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that I think the overreaction may have been due to an incorrectly built mock-up, but it's not as visible as he led us to believe.
Thank
That's
you,
it.
David. Thank you, David. Anything else from board members before we have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Alec,
I would happily move to adjourn.
motion to adjourn does not, David? Oh, okay. Motion to adjourn doesn't require a second. All those in favor? Just holler, raise your hand, do something. Good night, everybody. See you in June. And thank you for everything tonight. Good night.